Right. 1 May 2022. And today I'm back to my usual very interesting topic, which is the events that are taking place in Zambia. Zambia has become a very, very interesting country for me because of what has been happening ever since they elected the new president, Hakainde Hichilema. President Hakainde Hichilema has received a lot of goodwill from many, many people in Zambia and also from many people in Zimbabwe. I can say currently President Hakainde Hichilema is the most popular president and the most talked about president in Southern Africa. In fact, he has become a president that does not just speak, he also does a lot. And if you go on his timeline on Facebook, you'll be very, very excited to see that a president can be so engaged. There is barely a day that passes before you can see communication from President Hakainde Hichilema, who, in the past, I've criticized him politically on some of the decisions that he made. But as time went on, I'm sure all of you have been aware that President Hakainde Hichilema has really impressed a lot of people. He has had a lot of visitors coming in from other African countries, including President Paul Kagame, who was there recently, and also the president of the DRC, who was recently in Zambia. So Zambia is becoming an interesting country. And I was also there recently. You saw me in Zambia, in Lusaka. And when I went to Lusaka, I was very, very impressed with the infrastructure, with the foundation that the country has got to build on. This country can easily become one of the best investment destinations in Southern Africa. And this is because, besides the infrastructure, they are managing their currency properly. They are managing their informal sector properly. If you look at the Zambian informal sector, it shows you the order of the ordinary citizen. The ordinary Zambian is very, very organized, is a very hardworking person. So already President Hichilema is building on a foundation that is very, very firm. Now, the question that we had and that we've been asking was, can this economy be transformed? Can they change that economy? And is President Hichilema the right person to do it? And I think in recent days, most of you have seen his actions, and I don't want to take long with this. This is going to be very, very quick. It's actually straightforward. And I want to start with what happened over the weekend, obviously, about 4 days ago. You saw that President Hichilema launched the public-private dialogue. There is a 5-hour video at the Zambia Broadcasting Corporation, National Broadcasting Corporation. You can go and watch that video. There is a lot of engagement that took place between the government of President Hichilema and also the private sector, including their partners who are coming from organizations like the World Bank, the IFC. And I also saw the work that the Germans are doing. There's a lot of cooperation between the Zambians and the Germans. And even the Chinese, I'm sure you saw them there. They're doing a lot of work in Zambia. So in terms of what they're doing in Zambia, I think they're doing a lot of work. They will do very, very well. And personally, I would invest my money in Zambia at the moment. I think you can see that the Zambian people are benefiting from a new government. This new government of President Hichilema, it has really surprised many people because when I traveled in Zambia, it's clear that the infrastructure is there, as I was saying. The problem that I saw was obviously in the countryside. I went to Zambia through public transport. So I actually decided to use public transport. And I asked the guys to drop me off at Chirundu Junction. And then I picked up I was going to obviously travel to Kariba, where we're doing projects. And when I got to Chirundu Junction, I walked for about a kilometer. I just wanted to see what it felt like to walk in Zambia. And I met a young girl. She was, I could say, the age of my young daughter, about 7 years. And she was carrying a bucket on her head with some groundnuts. So I was asking her when we had a communication breakdown because she could not hear me. She could not understand English at that age. And I said to her, "How much is your groundnuts?" And we all didn't know what the other one was saying. I was holding my 10 kwacha and trying to hand it to her. And she wanted to tell me probably that the groundnuts cost 5 kwacha, but we didn't hear each other. So I ended up handing the 10 kwacha, and I got the small packet of groundnuts, very little packet of groundnuts. And what I realized was that there is obviously a lot to be done at the ground in Zambia in terms of education. In the countryside, there is not that much development. I've got so many pictures which show a Zambia that is not connected to the internet, a Zambia that is not developed, where there are no schools nearby, a lot of kids and women selling on the street. So those are the areas of opportunity for President Hichilema, especially when it comes to growth. Because I see the opportunity in Zambia as obviously development, like the pinpointed growth. And then when it comes to funding, I think what President Hichilema has announced last week, which is the grants that are going to be given to young women, youths and women. This is a great initiative which they're doing there in Zambia. If they could get it to the countryside, if they could get development starting in the countryside, not in the cities, not in Lusaka, there will be a lot of change in that country. And also, obviously, talking about that grant, I was a bit taken aback that it's going to be given through ministries. I would have expected President Hichilema to say, this money is going to go through the banks and it's going to go through, there is a need for infrastructure for entrepreneurship. So if you look at here in South Africa, there is a Small Enterprise Development Agency, which is SEDA, but then there's other agencies that deal with the development of small enterprises. Because I think the Zambian economy is not yet in the hands of the Zambians. So they need to find a way of taking that economy and putting it in the hands of the Zambians in a formal way. You need to find a lot of millionaires in Zambia, to create a lot of millionaires, because their currency is very, very stable now. It's gaining in terms of power. There is cash in the bank. So if you go to Zambia, you can withdraw cash in the bank. Prices are stable and low. So for a tourist to come to Zambia, it's very, very cheap to go there. It's affordable, and the country is being well managed. So what is left is to work on the issues of the Zambians. How do you get the Zambian at the very bottom to rise in terms of their standard of living? And this is where you need a lot of work to be done. And I'm sure that this is the work for government. I want to play for you a clip here of President Hichilema speaking this week. And then I want to obviously conclude the holiday here. I don't want to take a lot of your guys' time. Just listen to what he was saying here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the social and economic development of our country cannot be left to government alone. Never. It's not possible for government to deliver development on its own, because it hasn't got all it takes to reconstruct our economy. It is the responsibility of every one of us in public sector, in the private sector, in the partner group that we've been working with and growing the list going forward. We need to drive economic development for the good of our country. If for anything, for the private sector, economic development will expand your market. It will expand those that demand your goods and services.
Right. So you can see the President Hichilema is saying development cannot be left to government alone. And I think we slightly disagree there in terms of Zambia. Zambia is, in terms of the countryside, this is where I think the focus during Lungu's days was not being put. They need to build from the countryside. If they build from the countryside, Zambia is going to be an amazing country. They need to bring growth from the countryside and development from the countryside. Because if you look at a country, for example, like Zimbabwe, because everyone is educated in Zimbabwe, it's easy. The government has an easy job. But in terms of Zambia, there are so many people in the countryside who don't live close to each other, who don't live close to services. So somehow the government of Zambia has to create that development. And this will be very difficult to ask private sector to do. But this is not a criticism at all. It's just the facts. Zambia is a huge country that is to, I don't even know how long it's going to take to bring these guys to the same level of education as, let's say, Zimbabwe, South Africa, because Zambia has got the potential to even do better than South Africa, because the guys in Zambia are very welcoming to people from outside. So they could do very, very well, especially if they focus on that education, development of the lower level people in the countryside, and not focusing only on Lusaka, and not focusing only on the big hubs. This country can do well. They also need to work harder on marketing their country. Very few people know what you can get from Zambia. What can you benefit? I was talking to some of President Hichilema's supporters. They gave me a call just after his election. And we were talking about Zambia. What is it that I can do in Zambia? Let's say I want to visit in Zambia today. What features are there? What tourism attractions? What business opportunity? How do I get the business opportunity? I know that registering a company in Zambia is very quick. But then where do I register? When I register, what do I do next? How do I get a permit? Those things for people who want to come from outside, because I think the development of Zambia is going to need a lot of people from outside. There's also very low corruption in Zambia. If you compare Zambia with, for example, Zimbabwe and South Africa, the guys there, they're not corrupt like in those other countries. You take, for example, if you want to register a company in Zimbabwe, I've been trying to register my company in Zimbabwe. I think it's almost over a year now. And you'll be surprised. It doesn't happen over a year. So if I want to do anything in Zimbabwe, it's not online. And some of these things, it's because in Zimbabwe, there's just too much happening. Everyone is busy registering companies. They don't really need to register a company. What they need is the capital. So in Zambia, you have everything. You have the capital, you have the ability to register a company quickly, you've got opportunity. Especially if you go into the countryside and you're a foreigner, you want to invest in the countryside, there's a lot of opportunity. So I really think Zambia is going to do very, very well. And I think the current president there is doing a good job in terms of what he has put in place. I'm very excited with the opportunities in Zambia, and I think I'll be doing more stuff in Zambia, and I'll also be encouraging a lot of other people to go into Zambia and do things there, especially given what's happening in South Africa. Zambia is a perfect place. If you're a Zimbabwean, if you want to do things, this is going to be a very good place for you if you're an investor, not a hawker or a vendor. Someone who really wants to do big investments, someone who wants to go into service industry, someone who wants to go into mining, into construction, those kind of industries that we've been talking about. I'm sure there's a lot of opportunity there, especially if you want to partner with the locals. And I think this is where the government of Zambia needs to do better. Also, that funding, I wonder if it's going to be available to a wider section of people, if it's going to be coming from the ministries. So I would obviously want to see some change there and some reporting to say how many people are getting funding how many people have gotten funding from the grants that was announced by the president, and what they've done with them. Have those grants resulted in creation of employment, creation of new businesses, and so forth? That has been lacking in Southern Africa. A lot of governments here in Southern Africa, they don't do reporting. And it's worse here in South Africa. They have failed to create new industry. There is not a single new millionaire that you can point, or a billionaire that you can point right now. If you look at people like Motsepe, they're coming from the old, the time of transition. And I think Zambia now has an opportunity to do things differently, especially if they push this public-private dialogue that they've started. There's no one who has done it here in Southern Africa. And it's very, very frustrating for young people when the governments are not coming up with, they're not meeting the young people who want to do things. Young people want to do things, young people want to succeed, but the governments are failing to meet those young people so that they can succeed. And I hope that President Hichilema is someone who's an entrepreneur. He's going to be able to push that. Now, I want to look at some comments. And Hard Life is saying, thank you for realizing that HH is a hard worker and means business. Obviously, I always appreciate people who do hard work. I'm not a bootlicker, but I can tell you, I follow a lot of people, especially leaders. And you can see a good leader. When someone is a good leader, things just change around them. So I think the Zambians, they've done a good job by electing President Hichilema. We just want to see. This guy is talking about a sellout. I think he's talking about the new best of the Americans, Africa. I don't think that's a big problem to have a base, a military base, especially if your country does not have a big military. You can have a base, a military base. You can have a Chinese base on the east and the American base on the north. Whatever, it doesn't matter. There are many bases here. If you look at the countries like South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, there are many who have reported on this, and no one is worried about that. Let's go to Mufaro says, "You want to meet you when you come here to Lusaka. I'll be there in about 4 weeks. I'll be doing a lot of things in the area of Zambia. So you see me a lot." And let's look at, I want to look at the last things here. Wellington says, Gabagwe Media, true, Zambia and Zimbabwe in terms of investments, it's good federal soil to invest in. Right, I want to wrap this up in terms of Zimbabwe and Zambia. I think if I had $1 million, I would take my 1 million right now in terms of the fertile ground that you're talking about. I would take my money, my 750,000 to Zambia, and I'll take my 250,000 to Zimbabwe. Why I would do that is if you want your money to be in an environment where it's not going to lose value. So the biggest problem that we have in Zimbabwe is I haven't seen Tulingube since I think it's almost a year. Our guys who are in the ministries, who have been entrusted with the responsibility to make sure that our economy functions, they tend to sleep on the job when things are going wrong. So you're seeing that your currency is slipping. It's losing value. It starts at 10, it goes to 20, it goes to 30, it goes to 40, it gets to 100. You don't have to be told that you need to intervene. Something is not happening. And most of the time, the reason why your economy and your currency is slipping is because of lack of confidence. Why do people lack confidence? Because of lack of direction. So people need policy direction. They need policy consistency. This is the same thing that President Hichilema is providing. You can clearly see that he's communicating what is happening. If a problem arises, they quickly deal with it. Our guys in Zimbabwe, what is happening is, in terms of the responsible people like in the ministries, they take too long to respond to issues. I don't expect the issue of the currency to be just left like that, especially the guys at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. You need to deal with these kind of things very, very quickly, because if you leave these issues unresolved, they will become bigger and bigger, and the economy will not be able to recover at all. So this is obviously the issue that we need to deal with. And then obviously there's the issue of funding. In Zimbabwe right now, they have not put in place programs for young people to get access to funding. Personally, I've been running around looking for land for over the past, I think it's been a year now. We've been looking for land. We've got, at one point, we had over, let me say 1,000 people who are willing to invest in Zimbabwe from outside the country. You have all these people that are waiting to invest, and you've got tracts and tracts of land that are sitting there with no one working on them. And this land is not being made available to young people to work. There is no communication from Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise. There's a whole ministry. I've never seen that minister anywhere talking about anything. I'm not talking about investment. Just appearing on Facebook to greet people. I've never seen that minister. So that is what happens. Our guys who are entrusted with responsibility in Zimbabwe to do stuff, they sleep on the job. Key institutions like ZIDA, totally dead. I cannot believe this. Nothing in the public domain, no reporting. So if you want to remain competitive, you do what the president of Zambia has been doing, which is to be leading from the front in terms of how things should work. And I don't want anyone to take this as a criticism. I want things to work. And sometimes I think the disappointment comes from when you see things that are so easy to be done, and those easy things are not being done. That is the biggest problem that we have. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Why are you not advising ED to meet young people? I don't want ED to meet young people. I want structures. And you need to understand this. You cannot have a government that is run by a president only. You need a government that is run through structures. Put in place a proper ministry. Then make the minister work. Make the minister report. Put in place a parastatal. Make it work. Put in place a public-private dialogue like what President Hichilema has done. Make it work, make it report. Don't just wait for the president to do everything, because President Mnangagwa is not there everywhere. Sorry, I'm not talking about Mugabe. President Mnangagwa is not everywhere. You can't be in every place. So there must be people in the government who are awake, people who are not sleeping. And this is clearly the situation that you can see in Zambia there, that they've dealt with corruption, they've removed people who are sleeping on the job, and they are not playing with their currency. In Zimbabwe, that is our biggest problem. People just play with the currency as if they're playing with a toy. Your currency is critical. So the Zambians, if you go to their bank and you withdraw 100 kwacha today, after President Hichilema came in, that means that 100 kwacha, it's probably worth more than the 100 kwacha that you withdrew when President Lungu was in office. But President Lungu was not sleeping on the job. He did a lot of work. Look at the roads that are in Lusaka and around the surrounding areas. They've fixed their freeways. So there's continuous improvement. Now what they're trying to do is to improve growth, employment creation, and they're trying to make that economy function. Whereas in our current situation in Zimbabwe, the people that are put in place to do work, they're not doing that work. They think they're entitled to be in those positions. When things go haywire, they do not address those things. And no one should be happy when that happens. We end up with a situation very, very soon, especially the currency. I'm very unhappy with the current situation with the currency. You cannot start arresting people at financial institutions or at Bureau de Change. The reason why you start arresting people at Beirut Change and closing Beirut Changes is because you failed to act proactively. You are now reacting to a situation. In Zambia, if someone tries to sell money on the black market, I don't think they will have such a big black market as we have in Zimbabwe, where people are cutting around millions in cash just to avoid putting their money in the bank. That lack of confidence needs to be addressed through injection of investment from outside the country, injection of funds, growth of the economy, formalization of our economy. Because the Zimbabwean economy is opposite of Zambia. Zambia has got a very big informal sector for all their retail. You rarely see big companies like you have in Zimbabwe, in the center of Harare. But they're organized. The person in the informal sector is organized, is disciplined. If you go to the toll gate, you're not going to be told, pay us in US dollars. So you need to sort out that inconsistency that I want the dollar to do well, but I also want the US dollar. I don't want my own dollar. So the policy issues, I think the Zambians have done a very, very good job. Whereas our guys in Zimbabwe, currently, they need to wake up to this, especially the currency issue. The currency issue is the biggest threat. In fact, it's a national security threat in Zimbabwe. If they do not address this issue of currency, I said this when Mugabe was in office. If they do not address the issue of currency, where everyone is just treating the US dollar like a toy, they are going to have a lot of problems. And that is where the Zambians have done well. The confidence that they have in their currency, very interesting. The policies that the new president is coming up with, very interesting. And the country is becoming more and more attractive for investments. And I think to answer the question that I asked in the beginning, President Hichilema definitely up to the task right now. He's doing a good job. And I hope to see what else is going to happen. And probably I might even end up myself investing in Zambia. And you know what happens? If I invest in Zambia, I'll make a lot of money. And I might end up building my developments across the road. Instead of building this side of the Kariba, I might end up building on that side of the Kariba. And that will be something else, you know? So yeah, it's been an interesting day. Hope watching on and his gods. Ostalos went there, and I don't know what happened there. ZANU-PF says they did not send the guys who went to Hopewell to get his gods. So I believe them. But I actually do believe that Hopewell got some gods from government projects. And it was just something that was blown out of proportion. But these are investment issues. We are basically talking investment issues. There is a lot of confusion in the Zimbabwean space. If you want to invest, it's very, very frustrating. I don't know how many flights I've taken to Zimbabwe. Now I'm getting more and more frustrated as time goes on because I'm not getting there. I'm not being met halfway. And imagine if Gambakwe is having those issues. Imagine a person that does not know Zimbabwe, a person that does not know how to maneuver the Zimbabwean landscape. There's a lot of work to be done in our country to get to this level that the Zambians have gotten now. I cannot believe that I'm saying the Zambians have bypassed us. They're doing much better in terms of setting up the economy. I was very, very impressed with the dialogue that was taking place, the public-private dialogue. And I hope that they push that to the countryside. My only worry about Zambia is the countryside. They've not done enough. Education, they've not done a lot. There's a lot of gap at the bottom. They need to fix that gap. And then in terms of Dudula, I want to end with Dudula. Dudula is dangerous. I want to talk more about Dudula tomorrow with Senator Kalipane Pugeni. If you're a Zimbabwean and in South Africa and you think this is not going to affect you, you've got another thing coming. So start thinking right now. Start looking at countries like Zambia, which are doing well. See what you can do there. Stop thinking like an employee. That's what I always tell young people. Stop thinking like an employee. And really open your eyes to what is happening around you. Because what is going to happen here in South Africa, these guys are going to run this thing down. The young people here in this country, not in other countries, the older people. In South Africa, the young people are going to take this economy and crash it into the ground and burn. This is what is going to happen in South Africa. You've got young people here who think that they should be given something on their hands. And I don't think that is the way to go. Right. I think I've done enough for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And we'll talk again tomorrow. I'll be back here with Senator Kalipani again. And good night, everybody.
Uko kuno abo